Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask Becki Gray and Bev Perdue. Carolina Demography over at UNC Chapel Hill is reporting that much of our population growth is coming in urban areas from young people, minorities, and people from out of state. Well, that's nothing particularly new, but some political wonks say this is good news for Democrats, portends a loss of power for Republicans. The report says that our state has a larger rural population than any state but Texas. They tend to have a higher turnout. What's your take on this report, Becki Gray?
Well, first of all, I think Carolina Demography does really good work. And one of the things that I particularly like to see there are the trends that they do. And as you mentioned, we've seen this over a number of decades. As people move to North Carolina and people move within North Carolina, they're moving more to the urban areas. And so when you have that representation of, one man, one vote, and when you're dividing up the legislative districts for the representation, what we've seen is there is more dense population in the urban areas, and so there's more representation for those. Again, the rural districts seem to get big or getting bigger, and so there's less representation. So this whole notion of the urban-rural divide has been something that we've talked about for a number of years as we've seen that shift and that trend. Now what we're seeing is the political part of it, the partisan part of it. So it's not just urban-rural, but the people that are living in those urban areas tend to be more liberal, more progressive. Again, the rural areas, people that choose to live there tend to be more conservative. So you're seeing this shift. But, Tom, one thing that I've thought is, as we got this question, I kind of thought through it, these trends and all that we've seen over the decades have been in one direction. I'm going to be really interested to see what those look like after this pandemic and after people are, we're seeing in many cases, I know the organization that I work for, we're having really success with working from home and on, teleworking and those kind of things. So are we going to see a shift in the way that people work, where they live? People may no longer want to or need to feel like they have to live in downtown Charlotte because they work at a bank, a bank office down there. They actually could live in Surrey County, have some land around them. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be really interested to see if there's a change in the demographics.
Bev, you've been elected office from Craven County, which is not an urban area per se. And you've watched this over the decades as you've served North Carolina. What's your take on this Carolina Demography report?
Well, I like the work of Carolina Demography, but I do think that Becki's point is my point as well. I think that the old game for a lot of our historical parameters, the boxes that we've created and have followed, have believed in, what Carolina Demography says is going to happen likely will happen. But I, like Becki, believe that the pandemic has created such a disruption to the normal and accepted culture and movement patterns of people in the country that you're going to see a shift somewhere. My own firm, one of my good clients, told me yesterday that they are shutting down their offices in Washington, New York, and moving to Florida, many of the players, because they don't have to live in those urban cities. They're not going to travel like they've traveled. They're not going to fly to meetings. They're going to do them all by social media. I think that you have to win right now. You can't win North Carolina statewide unless you carry rural North Carolina. You've got to win the East. You've got to win the Far West.
And the rural East is more red Republican than are the urban areas.
Yeah, I couldn't get reelected here now because of the makeup of Craven County. But the bottom line is the state is changing, and I think all of us need to pause. Just like in education, we need to pause and not do what we've been doing because somehow that never worked. And it gives us a chance to rebuild, to restart, to reignite the way we think about the state. What's going to happen in urban areas is good for me. It's good for Democrats. But we'll see if that really happens.
This reminds me of a quote that Secretary Mandy Cohen made in an interview I did with her on UNC TV this week. She said, what we've got going on right now in North Carolina, and the nation for that matter, is we're trying to fly the plane at the same time we're building it. Things have changed so much. It's just topsy-turvy. Everything is different. And it's going to be interesting to watch all these changes in education and business and everything else. Well, anyway, thank you for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.